I stood outside the house, the cold air tightening around me, my hands bare, forgetting I even owned keys. There was a light humming from inside, a careless, happy tune. Not the kind of happy you hear from someone who misses you. The living room window was cracked open just enough for the words to spill out uninvited, soaking into my skin before I could turn away. You know, her voice floated out, a slow drawl thick with amusement. I never actually loved him. It was just easier, you know? He was always there, paying for everything, letting me live however I wanted. He was convenient. Another voice, rougher, younger, answered her with a low snicker, and the way she laughed back, an unrestrained, real laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in years, burned hotter than anything I had ever felt. There was no anger yet. Just silence, stretching out so long and sharp it made my chest ache. I felt like a stone had dropped into my gut, heavy and permanent. I didn't even recognize my own face reflected in the window, hollow eyes, mouth slightly open, as if the words were still trying to make their way through the gates of my mind. I could have barged in. I could have screamed. Instead, I stepped back, down into the garden I had built for her last spring, every flower chosen because she once said they made her feel loved. The irony clawed at my throat until breathing felt like swallowing glass. I turned away from that house, the fake life inside it, and walked. Down the street, into the rain, down avenues I didn't even know by heart because I had always been too busy rushing home to her. The city looked different now, every glowing window, every couple huddled under a single umbrella felt like a taunt. A joke. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew it had to be anywhere but there. It wasn't until my phone buzzed that I stopped. I pulled it out with shaking fingers. A message from her. Where are you? Dinner's getting cold. Dinner. As if I was supposed to sit down and slice into a piece of meat like nothing happened. Like the words she spat out weren't hammering nails into the coffin of us. I stared at the screen until the rain blurred the text. I wiped it clean with my sleeve and typed back 2 words. Don't wait. I hit send and powered off the phone. I knew if I kept it on, I might hear her voice again. Might hear her spinning lies with the same mouth that had just demolished me to a stranger. There was no coming back from this. No explanations. No let's talk. She hadn't just broken my heart. She had gutted it and laughed about it. I thought about the nights ID stayed up fixing her car. The days ID skipped meals to buy her something she wanted. All the time she smiled sweetly at me while secretly counting the ways I was useful. I didn't cry. I didn't even clench my fists. All I felt was something colder than the rain sinking into my bones. A certainty that this was not a wound I could bandage. And without any plan, without any map, I kept walking deeper into the night, away from the woman who never loved me and toward a future I didn't know, but somehow even in the middle of all that nothingness, already felt cleaner than anything I had left behind. I didn't sleep that night. I found myself wandering until the sky turned a weak shade of gray, the city waking up like a beast stretching after a long sleep. I sat on a cracked bench at some forgotten park where the paint peeled off in long strips and all the trees looked half dead. It felt right somehow. For hours I replayed every moment of our life together, but now everything wore a different skin. Every kiss, every I love you, every sigh of contentment sounded hollow. Scripted. Practiced. Had it always been this fake? Or had I just been too stupid to see it? When morning hit in full, I knew I couldn't hide forever. My stuff was still in that house. My car. My life. And whether I wanted to or not, I needed to see it all one last time before I disappeared for good. I wanted to face her, not because I needed answers, she had already given me the truth without knowing it, but because I needed her to see me walk away. Not crawl. Not beg. I found myself back on our street by noon, my clothes damp, hair stuck to my forehead. The house looked the same, that cheery blue door she insisted on painting together last summer, now a sick joke. The window was still cracked open like it was inviting me back in. I stood there for a second, gathering the little scraps of myself, and then pushed the door open without knocking. She was sitting at the kitchen table, a coffee mug in her hand, flipping through her phone. Her eyes lifted, mildly surprised, like I was the one intruding into her world. "Oh," she said, setting the mug down casually. "You're back. No apology. No panic. No shame. Just you're back." I looked at her, really looked, and saw none of the woman I had loved for years. She was a stranger wearing her skin. "You heard me last night, didn't you?" she asked, her voice light, almost playful, as if this was some awkward sitcom moment we could laugh about later. I didn't answer. She smiled, a slow, lazy curve of the mouth that almost made me feel sick. Come on, it wasn't like that. You're blowing it out of proportion. I said nothing. I wanted to hear what she would come up with next, how deep her well of lies could go. She stood up, crossing the room with that exaggerated sway she used when she wanted something. She stopped a few feet away from me, arms folded loosely, hip cocked to the side. You were good to me, she said, as if she were delivering a weather report. But it wasn't enough. You don't excite me. You're safe, predictable. And I need more than that. I let the words wash over me. I wondered how many times she had rehearsed them in her head. Probably while lying next to me at night, pretending to be asleep while dreaming about someone else. I wasted a lot of years trying to convince myself it was enough. She continued, her voice growing harder, less sweet now that I still hadn't reacted. But it's not. And you know what? I deserve better. The level of delusion left me stunned. You deserve better, I repeated slowly, tasting the bitterness. She smiled wider, mistaking my silence for weakness. Yeah, I do. For a moment, the temptation to scream, to throw something, to shake her out of her bubble was overwhelming. But then, something inside me clicked. If she could stand there and rewrite our entire history like that, if she could throw away everything we built without a second thought, she wasn't just cruel, she was lost. And nothing I said or did would ever fix her. I walked past her, toward the staircase. She called after me, a mocking edge in her voice now. What, you're gonna go cry in the bedroom? I didn't look back. I took the stairs 2 at a time, pulled an old duffel bag from the closet, and started throwing in whatever I could grab. Clothes, passport, wallet, watch, the essentials. The rest could rot here with her. She followed me up, leaning in the doorway, arms still folded, smiling like she was watching a child throw a tantrum. You'll be back, she said, almost singing it. You always come crawling back. I zipped the bag shut and walked past her again. Our shoulders brushed, the smallest touch, but it felt like the final slice of a knife. At the front door, I paused. For a second, the weight of years tried to chain me to that threshold. All the memories, all the sacrifices, but they weren't real anymore. They were bones, and I was done carrying corpses. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't slam the door. I just walked out. And this time it wasn't into the rain. It was into a storm of my own making. The moment the door clicked shut behind me, it felt like the house itself sighed in relief, like even the walls were tired of the lies that had seeped into them. I didn't look back once. If I had, maybe some last broken part of me would have hesitated. And hesitation was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. I threw the duffel bag into the back seat of my car and slid into the driver's seat without even buckling up. My hands hovered over the steering wheel, not gripping it, not clenching anything, just hovering there in the emptiness. She had said I would come crawling back. Those words replayed louder than anything else. Crawling back. She didn't know me at all. Not anymore. I pulled out of the driveway, tires gritting against the wet pavement. The city stretched out ahead of me like a battlefield still hidden under fog. I didn't have a destination. I didn't have a plan. But somewhere between the cracks of betrayal and rage, something new was starting to bloom inside me, a brutal, relentless need to tear down everything fake in my life and build something that couldn't be touched by snakes like her. A red light stopped me 3 blocks down. I drummed my fingers on the dashboard, mind racing faster than the rain splattering across the windshield. I didn't even notice the car pulling up beside me until the passenger window rolled down. It was him. The guy from last night. The low laugh. The stranger who thought he could laugh at me like I was a punchline. He leaned out of his car window, cocky, smirking, tapping 2 fingers against the side of his head like we were old friends sharing a joke. He didn't even recognize me, or maybe he did and he just didn't care. Rage flared so hot it almost blinded me, but I didn't move. I just stared, cold and steady. I wanted him to feel it, the weight of a man who had absolutely nothing left to lose. The light turned green, and he gunned it down the street, disappearing into the messy veins of the city. I didn't follow. I wasn't here for revenge. I wasn't here to lower myself to their level. They had already proven what they were. I had bigger plans. Instead, I drove to a storage unit on the far edge of town, One of those dusty places no one thinks about until they need to hide something. I had one rented under my name for years, mostly junk I never bothered to clear out. Old college boxes, tools, a few keepsakes. But today it became something else, my line in the sand. I dropped the duffel bag inside and slammed the door shut. It echoed like a gunshot in the empty hall. I locked it, pocketed the key, and leaned against the cold metal door, breathing hard. This wasn't just about her. This was about everything I had let rot in my life by pretending it was fine. Every excuse, every compromise, every fake smile to keep the peace. It all ended here. When I finally stepped back out into the daylight, it felt raw against my skin, almost too bright, too real. I turned my phone on for the first time since last night, and it exploded with notifications. Calls, texts, some from her, most from mutual friends, all sounding the same. She said you left without talking. She's worried. Are you okay? You need to come back and fix this. Fix this. Like I broke something by hearing the truth. I tossed the phone into the passenger seat and pulled away from the curb. A plan forming in my head faster than I could question it. She wanted me predictable. She wanted me safe. She thought she knew every move I would ever make. She was about to learn how wrong she was. I didn't go home. Not to the apartment where we built a life that meant nothing to her. Not to the bedroom that smelled like her perfume and lies. I went somewhere she'd never expect. The bar was a dive, hidden under a sagging neon sign that flickered half-dead against the afternoon light. Inside, it smelled like cheap whiskey and broken promises. Perfect. I found a booth in the corner, ordered a black coffee just to have something in my hand, and pulled out my phone again. I didn't open her messages. I opened the bank app. Our joint account blinked at me, all the money we saved together, or rather, the money I earned while she played house. I watched my fingers move faster than my brain, transferring everything out. Every last dollar into my private account, the one she didn't know about. The one I built when I first felt that whisper of doubt months ago, but buried under guilt. Guilt? God, what a joke that was now. Once it was done, I leaned back against the cracked vinyl booth and stared at the screen. My name. My money. My clean start. I imagined her checking the balance later, smug, ready to fund her new little fantasy life, and finding zero. I didn't feel bad. Not even a flicker. She had bet against me. She deserved to lose. I was halfway through my coffee when the phone buzzed again, vibrating so hard it skittered across the table. Her name flashed over and over. Then came the messages, short, frantic. Where are you? Come home. We need to talk. You're being immature. Don't make this worse than it is. Worse than it is. It was like standing over the wreckage of a car crash while the driver still sat behind the wheel insisting it was just a scratch. She didn't get it. She never would. I let the phone ring until it died. Let her scream into the void she created. When I finally slid out of the booth, I felt lighter, sharper, like I was finally waking up after years of being half asleep. I stepped outside into the dead air of the city, and for a second, I just stood there, feeling the ground under my feet. Solid. Real. But the day wasn't done yet. Not even close. I drove back to the house one last time, not to return, not to plead, but to leave a message she could never ignore. Her car was there, her precious new SUV that I had co-signed for, her prized possession. It gleamed in the driveway, polished to perfection like it had never been driven through anything rougher than a Starbucks drive-through. I parked at the curb, engine still running. Sat there for a moment. She thought she had the last word. She thought I would vanish, broken and humiliated. Not today. I pulled out a simple envelope from the glove box. The one ID scribbled her name on during the last bitter hour at the bar. Inside, no letter, no apology, no explanation. Just the copy of the title transfer papers for the car, signed by me, returned fully into her name, and a note in my handwriting. Congratulations. It's all yours now. The payments too. Good luck. I tucked the envelope under the windshield wiper, making sure it wouldn't fly away. And then I drove off without looking back, without speeding, without a single ounce of hesitation. Some people think revenge needs fire and fury to matter. But the truth is, sometimes the quietest moves are the ones that hit hardest. She wouldn't realize it right away, but the pieces were already falling. And when they did, it wouldn't be me crawling back. It would be her staring into the crater she dug with her own hands, wondering when everything turned to ash. The call came 3 hours later. I was sitting at a bus stop across town, watching strangers drift past like ghosts, their lives untouched by the quiet war raging inside me. The sun was starting to die behind the skyline, bleeding orange and red into the streets, when the phone rang again. Her number. I let it buzz twice before answering. I didn't say hello. I didn't say anything. Her voice broke the silence first, high and tight and desperate. What the hell did you do? Not hi. Not are you okay? Just straight to anger, straight to accusation. I leaned back against the cracked plastic bench, watching a kid ride a battered skateboard down the street, and said nothing. You took the money, she spat. You can't do that. That's our money. I smiled, slow and bitter, though she couldn't see it. Our money. I finally said, my voice steady. You mean the money you were going to use to fund your new life without me? There was a pause on the line, just a second, but enough. Enough to know she had no defense. You're being petty, she said quickly, switching tactics like flipping a coin. You're acting crazy. You're ruining everything over one stupid comment. One stupid comment? I echoed, feeling the words scrape against something raw inside me. That's not what I meant. It was a joke. God, why do you always take everything so seriously? I laughed then. Not loudly. Not bitterly. Just a short, broken sound that didn't even sound like it belonged to me anymore. A joke, I repeated. Is that what the last 6 years were? One long joke. She kept talking, desperate now, the words tumbling over themselves. We can fix this. I said stupid stuff. People say stupid stuff when they're drunk. Okay? You're not perfect either. You push me away sometimes. You don't even know how hard it is to. I cut her off, my voice colder than I thought possible. I heard you laughing, I said. You weren't drunk. You weren't sad. You weren't angry. You were happy. You sounded free. And that's how I knew it was real. Silence again. Heavier this time. The kind that wrapped around your ribs and squeezed until you couldn't breathe. I made it easy for you, I said. You're free now. No ties. No boring safe guy weighing you down. Just you and your more exciting life. You don't understand, she hissed, her voice cracking. I understand more than you ever thought I could. I hung up. No screaming. No begging. No swearing. Just a click. The cleanest break I had ever made in my entire life. The bus rumbled down the street, its headlights flickering over my face, but I didn't move to board it. I wasn't going to run away. Not from the city. Not from the truth. Not from her wreckage. She would have to live in it. I was already stepping over the ruins. The messages started flooding in after that. Not from her at first. From friends. From people who claimed to understand but really just wanted the drama, the juicy details. Where are you? Talk to her. You're better than this. Better than what? Better than walking away from someone who never loved me? Better than saving myself? The worst ones came from the people who acted like I owed her forgiveness just because I'd loved her once. As if love was a contract that survived betrayal. As if a broken promise could still be honored. One message stood out though, a simple one from my best friend, Nate. You did the right thing. Don't go back. Not even once. I read it 5 times before deleting every other message and blocking her number completely. My life didn't belong to her anymore. It didn't belong to anyone but me. And tomorrow I would start building something new, something that could never be broken by the hands of a liar. But tonight I was going to stand here in the middle of this bruised and battered city and let the wreckage settle around me. Not because I was lost. Because I was finally free. It didn't take her long to find me. The next morning, just as the city was dragging itself awake under a dull sky, she showed up. I was sitting outside a worn-out diner, nursing another terrible coffee that tasted more like burnt rubber than anything drinkable when I caught the reflection in the glass. Her, standing across the street, watching. At first, I thought she might just leave. That maybe somewhere deep down she realized there was nothing left to say. But of course, she didn't. Not her. She crossed the street like she owned it, her chin lifted, her walk sharp and deliberate, like she was stepping onto a stage. Like this was all just another performance she could control. I didn't stand up. I didn't wave her off. I just sat there, letting her come to me, letting her make her move. She dropped into the seat across from me without waiting for an invitation. No hello. No apology. Just that smug little tilt to her mouth like she was still 2 moves ahead of me. We need to talk, she said, and her voice was low, serious, the kind of voice she used when she wanted to sound sincere. I raised an eyebrow but said nothing. I wasn't giving her anything. Not a thread to pull. Not a crack to slip into. She leaned forward, lowering her voice even more. I know you're hurt. I get it. But this is childish. Running away? Taking the money? Leaving me like that. Leaving her. As if she hadn't gutted me first. As if she hadn't laughed about how useless I was behind my back. I stared at her for a long moment, letting the weight of my silence sit heavy between us. And still, she didn't flinch. Still, she played the role. You're better than this, she said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. I pulled it away like she was a flame. Something flickered in her eyes, not sadness. Not guilt. Anger. Real anger. She wasn't sorry I was hurt. She was furious she couldn't control me anymore. She sat back, crossing her arms like a sulky teenager, and her mask finally cracked. You really think you're some kind of hero now, she spat. You think you're punishing me? You're punishing yourself. Look at you. Sitting here alone like some pathetic loser. You need me a hell of a lot more than I ever needed you. The words hit hard, but not the way she intended. They didn't hurt. They clarified everything. She wasn't here to fix anything. She wasn't here because she missed me. She was here because she realized she had lost her safety net, the man who bent over backwards to make her life easy. Without me, she had to actually fend for herself. And she hated it. I smiled then, not out of joy, not out of victory, but out of pure, exhausted clarity. You're right, I said, my voice calm, steady. I was pathetic. I spent years building a life for someone who saw me as nothing more than a utility belt. Someone to pay the bills, fix the leaks, be there when no one else cared enough to show up. I leaned in now, mirroring her move from before, but my voice didn't drop to a whisper. I let every word hit her straight between the eyes. But I'm done. You don't get to sit here and rewrite the story. You don't get to play victim. You made your choice the second you opened your mouth and laughed about me like I was a joke. Her face twisted, a mask of anger and something uglier, fear. You'll regret this, she said, her voice low and venomous. I already regret wasting my time on you, I said, standing up and grabbing my jacket. But leaving? Best decision I've ever made. I left a crumpled bill on the table, not bothering to look back. She could sit there with her anger, her fear, her empty hands. And for the first time in years, I walked away from her feeling nothing but the clean, cutting wind of freedom against my face. I thought that would be the end of it. Naive of me, really. I should have known that someone like her, someone who couldn't stand to lose control, wouldn't just sit there and let me walk away clean. Started small. The first few days, she kept her distance. I could almost pretend she had finally gotten the message. I started breathing easier, planning the next moves in my new life. New job, new place, no ties. Just me standing on my own 2 feet for the first time in years. Then the games began. It started with her showing up at places she knew I went. The corner store, the coffee shop, the gym. Always by accident. Always with that innocent little shrug. Like, oh wow, what a coincidence. The first time I ignored her. The second time, I left without even acknowledging her. The third time, she decided to escalate. I was grabbing groceries. Basics, stuff you buy when you're rebuilding from scratch. When I saw her leaning against my car in the parking lot, arms folded, that smug grin glued to her face like she thought she still had the power to get under my skin. I stood there a second, just looking at her. The sun was setting behind her, painting everything gold, but she looked like a shadow. You gonna talk to me or just stare? She called out, loud enough that a few heads turned. I didn't move. She pushed off the car and sauntered up to me, like we were some couple in a rom-com about to kiss and make up. You don't have to do this, she said, tilting her head in that fake soft way she used to get her way. You're making this harder than it has to be. I dropped my bag of groceries into the trunk, slammed it shut, and looked her dead in the eye. "You're right," I said. "Let's make it easier." I walked around, got into the car, locked the doors, and drove off, leaving her standing there in the middle of the lot, mouth half open, reaching for a conversation that would never happen. But she wasn't done. Later that night, she played her final card, and it was dirtier than I ever expected. I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, her voice was shaking, fake crying so badly it would have been laughable if it wasn't so pathetic. "He hurt me," she sobbed into the recorder. "I don't feel safe. Someone needs to talk to him before he does something stupid." The implication was clear. She wasn't just trying to win anymore. She was trying to ruin me. I sat there in the dark, listening to the static of the voicemail, feeling the slow rise of something cold and surgical inside me. She had chosen war, and I wasn't afraid of it. Instead of panicking, instead of calling her, instead of begging her to stop, I called a lawyer. A real one. Not some internet advice or forum thread. A professional. I laid it all out. The messages, the surprise visits, the fake cries for help, every ugly piece of it. He didn't hesitate. "We'll file a restraining order," he said calmly. "We'll protect your assets. We'll make sure she can't touch you legally, financially, or personally." I didn't feel relief. Not yet. But I felt movement. I felt the ground shift under me, not pulling me down, but pushing me forward. This wasn't about saving my pride anymore. This was about saving my life from someone who had no idea how much damage she had already done. And this time, there would be no mercy left to offer her. The next few days were a strange kind of quiet, the kind that doesn't bring peace, just the heavy sense that something is coming. I didn't let my guard down. Not for a second. The restraining order was in motion. My accounts were locked down tighter than a fortress. I changed my number, moved the last of my things into a cheap studio on the other side of town, left no forwarding address. I even found a new job, something far enough outside my old life that she wouldn't be able to sniff it out easily. But chaos has a way of finding you when someone is desperate enough to light their own world on fire just to get your attention. It happened one evening, just after I finished stacking boxes at the warehouse. I was walking to my car when a figure stepped out from behind a row of delivery trucks. Too sudden, too close. It was her. No makeup, no smug smile, just wild, frantic energy rolling off her like smoke. Before I could say anything, she launched into it. "I didn't mean for it to get this bad," she said, voice shaking. And not the fake, calculated kind this time. There was something raw there, something cracked wide open. I just wanted you to listen," she said. "You wouldn't talk to me. You shut me out." I leaned against my car door, arms crossed, watching her unravel in real time. "You think filing papers and running off makes you the good guy," she snapped, suddenly switching back to anger. "You think you're some saint? You're a coward. You're running from this, from us." There it was again, the us that only existed when it served her. The us she set on fire and now wanted to pretend she could salvage from the ashes. "You killed us the night you laughed at me like I was a joke," I said flatly. Her mouth twisted. "I was scared," she said, trying to soften her voice again, fake vulnerability oozing out. "I didn't mean any of it. I didn't mean to hurt you." I pushed off the car, standing up straighter, forcing her to look me in the eye. "You meant every word," I said. "The only thing you didn't mean was to get caught." Her face flickered, guilt, rage, desperation, all tangled together. "Maybe I messed up," she muttered, almost to herself. "But you're not perfect either. You made it easy to leave." That was her final play. The last desperate excuse. Blame the man you used. Blame the man you betrayed. I could have said 100 things. I could have ripped her apart with all the words she deserved to hear. But standing there, under the flickering parking lot lights, all I felt was exhaustion. "You're right about one thing," I said. "I did make it easy. I made it too damn easy. I loved you when I should have walked away the first time you showed me who you really were." She stepped closer, reaching out, her hand trembling. "We can still fix this. I know we can. Please?" I stepped back, and her hand dropped like a dead weight. "There's nothing left to fix," I said. "You burned it all down. You just didn't expect to be standing in the smoke alone." Tears filled her eyes, real this time, but too late. Way too late. Without another word, I unlocked the car, got in, and drove away, leaving her standing there in the empty lot, nothing but the broken pieces of the life she thought she could rebuild with lies. I didn't look back. Not even once. Because looking back was how I ended up there in the first place. The air in the city tasted different after that night. Colder. Sharper. Cleaner. It wasn't freedom yet, not fully, but it was something close enough to keep me moving. She didn't try to follow after the parking lot encounter. No more surprise visits. No more phone calls from unknown numbers. It was like she finally understood that whatever thread she had tried to keep wrapped around my neck had been sliced clean through. But the ghost of her lingered. Every time I opened a drawer and found an old receipt from some dinner we barely enjoyed. Every time I stumbled across a photo stuffed into the back of my wallet, a frozen smile I didn't even recognize anymore. Every memory felt like stepping barefoot onto broken glass. It wasn't just her I had to cut out. It was every piece of the life we had built on a rotten foundation. So I started purging. First, the physical. I went back to the storage unit, the one I had crammed full of someday dreams and will need this promises, and sorted it all into piles. Keep. Burn. Donate. Trash. The keep pile was smaller than I thought it would be. A few old books. A toolbox my grandfather gave me. One photo of me alone, before her, before all of it, a reminder of the man I had buried under years of compromise. Everything else? Gone. I didn't sell it. I didn't try to make money off it. I gave it away or threw it in dumpsters like the dead weight it was. It wasn't about anger anymore. It was about reclaiming oxygen in a room she had sucked dry for too long. The second purge was harder. The digital ghosts. Shared social media accounts. Joint subscriptions. Online albums filled with pictures of fake smiles and fake anniversaries. I deleted it all. Systematic. Ruthless. One by one, the ties snapped until my phone, my life, no longer had any fingerprints left on it but my own. By the end of that week, it was like she had never existed in my world at all. Almost. Because the final purge, the real one, wasn't physical or digital. It was emotional. It was standing in the middle of that cheap, bare studio at 3 in the morning, the only sound my own breathing, and admitting to myself the hardest truth. I wasn't angry because she didn't love me. I was angry because I stayed long after I knew she didn't. I let her steal pieces of me because it was easier than facing the silence of being alone. I told myself half a life was better than no life at all. I thought love was supposed to hurt sometimes, and that if I hurt enough, it would somehow mean more. It doesn't. It never does. Love doesn't survive on pain. It survives on truth. And there had never been any truth between us. Just convenience, resentment, and fear pretending to be devotion. That night, standing there alone with nothing but the hum of the city through the cracked window, I made a promise. Not to her. Not to the past. To myself. Never again. Never again would I let someone set the terms for my own worth. Never again would I stay in a burning house just because I was too scared to walk into the unknown. I wasn't broken anymore. I wasn't her leftover project. I was mine, fully, finally, fiercely mine. And somewhere out there, beyond the ruins, a real life was waiting for me to step into it. It didn't happen all at once. Healing, moving on. It's not the dramatic scene people imagine, the one where you scream into the night or tear old photos in half and suddenly feel lighter. The slower, quieter, harder. Some mornings, I still woke up with a phantom ache. Like something was missing. Not her, never her. But the idea of what I thought we had. The illusion I had clung to with both hands even when it was already slipping away. I let myself feel it. The anger. The sadness. The betrayal. I didn't shove it down or drown it out with noise. I let it tear through me until there was nothing left but the truth that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is the thing that finally sets you free. Weeks passed. I rebuilt piece by piece. New job. New apartment. New friends, the kind who didn't know her name, who didn't look at me like I was a story they wanted to hear the juicy details of. They knew me as I was now, not as the man crumbling in the aftermath of a lie. I stopped checking mutual friends' pages. I stopped wondering who she was with now, what new role she was auditioning for in someone else's life. It didn't matter. None of it did. One night, a few months after it all ended, I walked past a restaurant downtown, one we used to go to when we still pretended to like each other. The lights were warm inside, the clink of glasses and low laughter drifting out onto the sidewalk. For half a second, a shadow flickered across my mind. A memory of her sitting across from me, smiling with the same mouth that would later laugh at my existence. But it didn't hurt anymore. It didn't even sting. I kept walking without slowing down, without looking back. Because what mattered wasn't the memory. What mattered was that I had survived it. I realized then that losing her wasn't the tragedy I thought it was. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. She didn't destroy me. She revealed me. She stripped away every illusion, every lie I told myself to stay comfortable. She forced me to face the truth about who I was, and who I refused to be anymore. I wasn't the man who begged to be chosen. I wasn't the man who settled for scraps of love. I was the man who stood up, walked away, and never once looked over his shoulder. If I could leave anyone reading this with something, anyone standing where I stood, broken and furious and lost, it would be this: listen to the words they don't know you're hearing. Believe the laughter they think you can't hear. Because that's the real truth. Not the sweet apologies, not the promises to change. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And when the time comes, and it will, stand up, walk away, and leave everything that ever made you doubt your own worth behind you in the ashes where it belongs. Forever.